Oh, it's so hot. Johnny Mac, you keep saying that. It's not even a setup for a joke. I know. I'm pretty open about how I pre-record the weekend episodes in advance, and it's Thursday, and it's 96 degrees, and this is the third one in a row I've recorded, and I'm hot. Trevor Noah marveled at the pettiness of Donald Trump, who last month had his ex-wife, Ivana Trump, buried near the first hole at the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster. Yeah, this is a real story. Did you see this? Some speculated it was for a tax break. Trevor Noah said, wow, a lot of people say I'll pay taxes over my dead body, but Trump means it over somebody else's body. Even for him, this feels like a step too far. I don't care what anyone says. I wouldn't even laugh at that as a joke. If someone said to me, Donald Trump's ex-wife died, he's probably going to bury her on his golf course to save on taxes, I'd be like, that's not cool, man. But it turns out Trump was like, wait, say more. I'm going to send this to my accountant. Keep going. Trevor added, what this really shows you is how strange the tax system can be. All this tax break does is incentivize you to be a weirdo. Who came up with this? It almost feels like the law was written by a serial killer. You know, there should be a law that if you bury a body in your yard, you don't have to pay taxes anymore. All right, let's go back and forth on Joe Rogan stuff and some politics. This way I can tick off everybody and everyone will unsubscribe from the podcast and everyone will be mad at me. I didn't say any of this. I just Googled the word comedy from the New York Post. Joe Rogan. He was talking to guest Chris Williamson on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. Joe Rogan mentioned how the government is trying to not call this a recession. Rogan said the Biden administration was literally changing the definition of a recession, which is terrible, and it should be pushed back against in a big way. It should be something that people get angry about, like, hey, you're effing with definitions in order to pretend that you're doing a good job. We've always used that term, recession, to define whether or not the economic policies that are currently in place or whether or not the management and the government has done a good job of making sure that the economy stays in a good place. They definitely haven't done that. Guest Chris Williamson said if you can't control the economy, you might as well just control the language and hope for the best. Rogan replied, what a bunch of weasels. Meanwhile, Kathy Griffin was on the Pivot podcast and said, I haven't seen Joe Rogan in years. I said to Judd Apatow, if I ran into Joe, I haven't seen him in probably 15 years, I could probably have a conversation with him. But she added, the Roganization of America has her more worried than she is about Trumpism. Kathy said, Rogan's fan base is very frightening because the misogyny runs so deep. When I make fun of his show, the Elon Musk army comes after me. The Rogan army comes after me. They're very into swarming. I've known guys like Joe Rogan my whole career, and guys like that are best to stay away from. There are other people that can get into the arena with him. She also discussed Elon Musk's failed Twitter takeover and said, it makes me sad. I know this is so simplistic and silly, but I'm one of those dumb Americans that walks around going, man, the stuff Elon Musk could do with his money, the stuff he could do, by the way, even as an immigrant. Once you start rolling with Kanye West and Joe Rogan, it's like, I don't know if you could really talk to those guys anymore. When I saw Elon at Code, which is an amazing festival of thinkers, I have to say I was really blown away by hearing him talk. I've heard him talk in person twice, and the stuff he says that I think is so probably false is just bizarre. Like he would say stuff that I thought was horrifying. Like it's that movie Biodome with Pauly Shore. He's basically Pauly Shore, so he's building the biosphere on Mars. Nobody wants to go to Mars. He has one problem that nobody asks him about. What about the lack of oxygen? I just wonder, how's it going to go if there's no oxygen in your crappy, smelly bubble? It's only rich people that can go there, and only people who would want to be with people I assume would give their money to Elon Musk at this point. I mean, I don't even think Elon Musk's former partner Grimes is going to go. I mean it. And if she doesn't go, I'm not going to go. Hollywood Reporter spoke to Patton Oswalt and said, hey, you titled your tour, Who's Ready to Laugh? Is that a question you found yourself asking? Are people ready to laugh again? And to that end, has what they're laughing at changed? Patton said, I meant that more as ironic, me asking, hey, who's ready to laugh? Like, after all the hell we've been through, the absurdity of what a comedian does at this point, I really feel like an MC in cabaret a lot of the time. Like, what am I really doing against this seeming tide of darkness that we're facing? So the title was meant to be funny in a desperate kind of way. My interpretation was more like, hey, I'm the entertainment on the Titanic right now, because that's how it feels these days. I think I've always been very trusting of my audiences to just kind of rise to the occasion and get whatever the joke's going to be, rather than trying to pre-anticipate, like, okay, what's the mood of the country? What should I be saying? It's like I know that at least my audience, and I hope it doesn't sound like a brag, but they'll get that I'm joking and I'm trying to embrace the absurdity of everything we're living in. I mean, if anyone had told us within our lifetime there'd be a deadly pandemic and people would be reacting to it like people during the Salem witch trials, like, this ain't real, they'd think we're crazy. But that's the insanity we're living with, and there's no avoiding it. I'm going to quote my friend Bobcat Goldthwait here, but once you go out in the world, especially as a touring comedian, what you find out is that Twitter and the internet is not the world. Twitter and the internet amplifies a mutant version of the world for entertainment clicks, but to the actual world, people, for the most part, are struggling to help each other and live lives and just trying to be human beings. Unfortunately, it's like we have bad parents who are modeling awful behavior for us, and we're the kids. That's what we're seeing right now. Cristela Alonzo credits Greg Giraldo with helping refine her comedy. Cristela was on the Good One podcast. Cristela said the year she was doing Last Comic Standing, Greg Giraldo gave her a note and said, "You don't speak with an accent. Why does your sister speak with an accent?" And I was like, oh, because my siblings all grew up in Mexico. They all lived in Mexico for a decade before they moved to the U.S. I was born here and I learned English off the TV. And he said, well, then write a joke about that. It took me so long to write about it in a way that I felt really conveyed what he was saying. I loved Greg Giraldo. He was so gifted. And what he said to me about the joke was, I started thinking, oh, but that's my truth. Then I thought, wait, but they don't know that's my truth. They don't understand my family. They don't understand the family dynamic. Maybe it does seem like I'm being exploitive. That's the one thing I think is so important in stand-up. You don't have to listen to anybody's notes, but if you respect them and they're telling you something that they don't have to tell you, maybe listen and see if it works with what you're doing. All right, I've been sitting on this for like a week and a half. This came out just as I was heading to Montreal. This is Variety's 2022 Comedy Impact Report. Just going to skim this from stand-ups to showrunners, actors, podcasters, agents to execs. These were some of the most impactful voices in a transitional year for comedy. Looks like these are in alphabetical order. So first up, Judd Apatow. Second is Quinta Bronson, who wants to change the perception of the job of teachers because that informs how we treat teachers, how much we pay them, and support them politically. She's confident that Abbott Elementary will grow for many seasons. I only hear great things about that show. I have not seen it yet. Nicole Byer is third on the list alphabetically. Biggest challenge of the past year, she says, was losing the Emmy to RuPaul. She was joking. Fourth up, Gerard Carmichael. Greg Daniels. He's moving into reality TV with My Mom, Your Dad, a comedic twist on middle-aged dating that he created for HBO Max with his daughter, Haley. Hope that doesn't get canceled. HBO Max is cutting stuff back there, Greg Daniels. Good luck with that. Bridget Everett. She saw her HBO Max series, Somebody Somewhere, take her back to her Kansas roots. I'm on HBO Max every day. I don't know if I've even scrolled past that. Is it good? Paul Feig is on the list. Welcome to Flash. Returns for Season 2, September 29th. It's a fascinating list here, Variety. Chelsea Handler. Okay, we heard a lot about Chelsea recently. Chelsea said, after spraying my go-to food with Windex for the last 2 years, it's been a nice change of pace to get on stage and unpack that. Gabe Iglesias. Yep, he had a big year selling out Dodger Stadium. Sam J. Sam J's been doing some great comedy work. She said, when the Netflix special came out, we were in the pandemic, so it wasn't like one of those things where I got to go outside. People were like, oh, I saw your special. I made it in the bubble where I didn't really know who saw it or what it was actually doing in the world. Mindy Kaling and Justin Noble get one combined entry. They get noted for The Sex Lives of College Girls, set in an elite liberal arts college. The show follows the academic and personal lives of 4 freshman roommates. Kids in the Hall. You know, I was so excited about the new season, and the first episode didn't grab me. I have to go back on that one. If you guys watch The Kids in the Hall, I haven't seen anybody really buzzing about it other than like entertainment websites, but I haven't seen anybody in the real world saying the new season was awesome. Joel Kim Booster. You know, it's funny. I saw Joel Kim Booster at Montreal New Faces several years back. Whatever year he did there, it's been fun watching his career. And he had Fire Island earlier this summer. So Joel Kim Booster has arrived. Bert Kreischer. Bert says, this year's been filled with so many highlights, but I think my biggest highlight, and maybe it's fresh in my mind, is the Fully Loaded Comedy Festival. It was literally a dream come true, performing outdoors in arenas and at a race away with my favorite comics, living on a bus with them for 2 weeks, and getting to see my oldest daughter, Georgia, experience her first live comedy show. I was both crying and laughing at Dave Attell. Wow, this list is a lot longer than I thought, and I'm hot. All right, let's say I'm up to... Wait, there's 45 people on this list. I'm only up to 15. Hey, guess what? We're going to chip away at this over the next few days. I need a drink. That's your comedy news for today. Johnny Mackey just abruptly wrapped this up. Yes, I did. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow.